Hi, I'm H Satish here, wildlife photographer. In fact, today I wanted to help those who want to learn the art of macro photography. Most of the people, particularly macro photographers, they do take macro photography just by aim and shoot. That is, whatever they see, they just capture it for the record's sake. The other photographers, they document it. They want to document the natural history or the species as it is found. That means they do not give any importance for the background, the lighting, or the composition. It is just for their records. But myself, as an art photographer, I give more importance for the art of photography. That means I want to compose perfectly well and use this either the daylight or the artificial light to give a very impactful to make it very impactful picture. Usually we call this as creative macro photography. So friends, I would like to make this practicals in the outdoor photography in two parts. The one is that natural sunlight. There is a beautiful caterpillar here. So this is beautifully lit. In fact, this caterpillar the light is falling from this side, in fact. So there is a direct sunlight from here, but the background is very disturbing. If you keep the camera here and take picture, the background is very disturbing. So what I do now is to select the background properly, and I would like to take this caterpillar in backlighting. The reason is the hairs are so beautiful and beautifully lit by the sunlight. So if I shift my camera to other side and take this background, what you are seeing is dark. The light is not falling here, but the sunlight is falling on the caterpillar. So the ratio between this sunlight and the shadow is almost 1:3 or maybe 1:4. So what happens is, whatever the exposure you give it for the caterpillar, the background goes dark, and that is what is needed for this particular shot. So now I'll bring my camera and take without using my flashes, because I don't need a flash picture here. I want only the backlit hair lights, that is the hairs of the caterpillars to be seen in backlight. So that's what I am going to do now without using my flashes. This is a beautiful posture of the caterpillar is also very good. The perch is also very nice. So I'll just open my camera and come to the other side and take. So actually the other thing is, usually in wildlife they say you should not wear very bright dresses like white shirt, red shirt or yellow shirt like this and all. But that is for wildlife where you are approaching animals on foot in the sanctuaries and national parks. But of course now they don't allow you to get down in the sanctuaries. But today I am wearing yellow t-shirt to prove that the dress is not important in macro photography, particularly insects, butterflies or whatever, because in macro these subjects, they will not bother about the colors of the person. They are not at all, they cannot gauge these colors and they fly away or run away, things like that. Nothing happens like that. So dress doesn't matter in macro photography. The most important is the thing is that supposing if the whole plant is fully thorny and lot of bushes and lot of thorns and sticks all protruding outside, even if you touch somewhere, the insects may get disturbed and the position of the caterpillar may change. It may move down or up. Supposing think that this, instead of this caterpillar there is a butterfly, it will definitely fly away immediately as soon as you approach very close. So coming and approaching the subject is very important in macro photography. And now I am utilizing the opportunity of backlighting. So the sun is just opposite to me and the hairs are beautifully lit. So what I do is I have kept my readings as aperture priority 250 ISO f8. I can even change it to f11 to get little more depth between the front hairs to the back hairs. In macro photography, even if you keep f11 also, the depth will not change to the background because the distance, the closest distance from the lens to the subject is very short, and the distance from the subject to the background is quite far. So even if you keep f11 or f22, the depth of field may not vary too much, but whereas that depth of field at f11 definitely matters from the front side of the insect to the back side of the insect. That's all. So since the caterpillar is sitting vertically and the stick is vertical, the most preferable framing is the vertical shot. So first I will take one or two shots to check my exposures. Yeah, the exposure is perfectly exposed, but the thing is I am not getting what I want at the background, because since I have kept it in aperture priority, the camera also gauges the lighting that is at the background, that is the shadow. So that is the reason the shadows are also lit up little bit. So what I do is I go to exposure compensation, that is plus and minus is there. In minus I keep -1. So -1 is one stop under exposure for the background. So it doesn't change here because the highlights are very nicely laid, and this camera in the aperture priority it gives the exposure for the highlights. So I get a beautiful highlights on the hairs. Yeah, now my background is quite dark, beautiful, but the front portion of the caterpillars is little bit dark, but that is what the tone I needed to get only the backlit hairs. So what I can do is, so this is my reflector, so I can keep the reflector here and slightly give the reflected light onto the shadow portion. Or else what I can do, if you don't have these kind of reflectors, I can use my hanky. Okay, so usually 100% and most of my life I have used only white hankies. So I can just hold it here and give the reflection onto the shadow portion. Now you can see how nicely the background will be lit. I mean the shadow portion of the caterpillar will be lit. And for this I have to reduce the exposure compensation again to from -1 to -1.3. Yeah, now it is beautiful. In fact, I have got very good dark background, as well as the shadow details are very good, and the highlights what I want I have got. So friends, you just see the background from the other side, it is full of bushes here. You will get lot of sticks and other disturbing things here. But whereas from here, the background is very neat, very clean. It's full of green color. So this background is very suitable. So likewise, you have to move here and there and select your proper background for your macro photography. So next I will be showing you flash, how to use artificial lighting. This is the daylight without any artificial light. In daylight I am using only the reflector and the sunlight. That is what we call as natural light. So for the next subject, I will be showing you how to use artificial lights to get the same effect.
Today, I am in search of some macro subjects. Macro subjects can be spiders, butterflies, small insects, or anything. But when you are in the woods, where do you find these subjects? When I am walking in the woods, the grasslands are the best place to find these macro subjects. In most of the grasslands, the butterflies and the owl flies or robber flies, dragonflies, these are all found quite easily. You have to look for the edges of the twigs or the grass or the flowering birds, that where you will find all these subjects. For spiders, you have to look at the bark of the tree or small twigs, and some of the flowers, also some spiders will come and occupy their places. So you have to keep a look inside the bushes or under the leaves or on the bark of the trees. All these places you should keep watching. The other part of my session on creative macro photography is the use of artificial lights, that is, flashlights.
Today I will be showing you how to do creative lighting for our macro photography. You can see here some weaver ants carrying the larvae of dragonfly. In fact, the dragonfly is still alive, and they have taken out the some secretion is coming out of that larvae, and they are feeding on that, and they are carrying to the nest. In fact, just to demonstrate this creative lighting, I have brought this onto a stick, and you can see on the same stick the ants were carrying. And I request none of you, please try this in nature, because we should never handle it. But only for the sake of demonstration of lighting, I am showing you this particular perch with weaver ants carrying the larvae. Most of the time, these weaver ants, they carry all these dead bodies of butterflies, cockroaches, the forest cockroach, larvae of dragonflies, and so many other insects to their nest. This is to store during their winter season. They have to store all the food in their nest. So here, when I take this without the flash, it will be totally daylight. I have to fill in the flash from the front. But in nature, there is only one light, that is sun. So in case if you want to make any creative lighting, here you can see I have placed two flashes, plus my another flash is on the camera. So one is from the side light, one is from the back light, and one more on the camera. And I am using two flashes with the diffuser, one side light flash directly without any diffuser. And I have used this is the flash hood, actually, just like lens hood, because I don't want that light to enter the lens when I'm shooting. So one front light from the front side, it fills the shadow. And I am more interested in the backlighting. That is, one is the side light and one from the backlight. So I create a three-dimensional effect in the picture. So you can see this camera has to be placed onto a tripod, but I have got three tripods here already engaged. One tripod for the perch, one for the side light, one for the backlight. So it's better to carry your own one more tripod to take pictures. So actually now what you can see is these ants, they carry different insects most of the time. Now you can see it is carrying larva, and that larva has got full of juices. So they each one of them, they try to take it to the nest. Now what exposures that we have to give for this backlighting? The backlighting I am creating with the artificial light, like the front light from the camera. I am using the side light. This is the backlight. So I have to take from the position where you are seeing. I have to come that side and take. And you can see the background, I have chosen the dark background. So whether it is sunlight or artificial light, the dark background gives a beautiful effect. So create more darkness, since I am using the exposures, which is most important, with the ambient light. Supposing if I take with the ambient light, the shutter speed I have to select 100 or 125, 1 or 100 or 1 or 125 to get ambient light, that is the background. Since I am concentrating on black background, I use the shutter speed about 1/250th or 1/200th of a second. So the exposure for the flash, it depends on the aperture and not on the shutter speed. Please mind this factor, that whatever the exposure that you are giving for flashes, you have to set right aperture. Whatever the shutter speed, the ambient light will be captured by the shutter speed. So now I am using f11 f11 for my 125th 125 ISO. Okay, since I am using artificial light, the ISO, the shutter speed, aperture, everything is in my control. I can use it perfectly well. So now I'll come that side and use 125 ISO f8. If the aperture is set for f8 for this main flash, I have to set half a stop or quarter stop more for the side light, that is the side light, and for the backlight it is half stop more, so that the ratio between the front light, the side light and the backlight will be perfect. That means the side light will be quarter stop over, backlight will be half stop over, so that it gives beautiful backlighting effect for the curves of the stick, as well as the highlight will be more in the backlight than from the front. Front light, what I am using on the flash, is only to fill the shadows from the front. So this is the exposure. Now you can see how I have shot this picture. The ants carrying the larva. So friends, now you have seen how we have used 3-4 flashes creatively to get a beautiful macro subject with creative lighting. So when we have to be very creative in composition or with a creative lighting to be shown, particularly in insects, because quite often we do different kinds of lighting in bird photography or in animal photography like backlighting and other things. But in insect photography, it's quite difficult because most of the insects and butterflies are found within inside the bushes. But finding them outside with a good perch and good background is quite difficult. So you have to be very lucky, and you have to look for such kind of subjects with clear background and good perch. So today we have learnt what is the use of using flashes. In fact, in earlier days, we used to use this kind of flashes with only one reflector, where you can just bounce the light, or you can close the the diffuser down, but only this will reflect back the light onto the subject. But later on, we have changed our concept of diffusers to the latest version of diffusers like this, where this diffuser, it broadens the light. It not only diffuses the light to a very good level, it gives a very soft light in the surrounding areas of the insects and butterflies. So thereby, with the large area, we get very neat and diffused soft lighting on the subject. So this will be our front light. So for this, you have to use two, three other backlighting or side lighting or whatever you call. Some of the individuals, you can take a call on your own individual lighting, and every individual has got his own exposure system. Some people, they like very bright lighting. Some people, they like off black tones. Some people, they like low key effects. So this all depends on every individual. So all these things what I have explained to you about the lightings, these are all just an idea that I have given to you. So depending on your number of flashes that you can afford, and the exposures that you want to give for different subjects, you have to give different kinds of lighting. It is not always that you have to give one backlighting, one side lighting, nothing like that. Depending on the subjects, depending on the color, depending on the background, you have to use the flashes. So in my slideshows, you can see whatever I have explained to you today. All these factors I have kept in mind while shooting all these images, particularly using backlight and side lighting. I have used maximum 4 flashes I have used for certain subjects. So this is to create and be a different person than others, because everybody does photography. Most of them, they do document photography, to document the subject as it is, where it is, and however it is. But being an artistic photographer, giving importance to art of photography, we have to give importance for composition, the subject, the lighting, the background, everything. So that is why we take more time to set up everything and take perfectly well composed, well lit images. That's why we differ from the common or ordinary photographers who aim and shoot. So you have to be always a creative and artistic photographer. So for that reason, I have explained to you this creative lighting, and I wish you all the best, and use more number of flashes, and use creative lighting to beautify your macro subjects. So friends, up till then you have seen so many videos how to do insect photography with different kinds of lighting, maybe with natural light or artificial lights, using one flash and two flashes or three flashes, things like that. But whatever is said and done, ultimately the processing is very important. You have to do the processing in such a way that you should get the final image like what you have seen while shooting. The background, the darkness or the shadow details in the background, the shadow details on the subject, the highlights, the colors of the insects and butterflies, all these things makes very important factors in macro photography. In fact, this is a very small this thing that idea that I have given to you, so that you people can venture out yourself, and along with like-minded people and knowledge sharing people, if you go, you will gain a lot of knowledge in insect photography or macro photography, whatever you call. And the most important thing is that you have to use correct cameras, correct lenses, and usage of tripods, particularly for cameras as well as for flashes, and the reflectors if need be. All these things you have to carry whether it is required or not, because you don't know when you require all this in the field. And places like this, the beautiful streams are the place where you find a lot of dragonflies, damselflies, and ants with ant nests. You find all over here. And when you just walk on this floor, forest floor, you come to see a lot of life happening. That is, ants carrying food for it to its nest for the winter season, and there are damselflies with the kill. There are robber flies with the kill. So many things you will get in this kind of environment where you have to venture out into the water or outside the water. Everywhere you have to walk. So keep it in mind that insect photography or macro photography is not very difficult, but you should have good mindset to venture out to different places, different locations in the bushes, under the trees, into the grasslands, and so many places. And you should have good knowledge about the subjects where to find. So all these factors are very, very important. So ultimately, getting the best picture out of so many images is very important. So all the best, and I hope the pictures, whatever you have seen so far, were of some use to you people. Thank you so much for watching this video, and thanks to Arjun for shooting this video and making it live. Thank you so much.